Are they walking down the street? Every young boy I meet, oh, are they walking down the street? Every young boy I meet, oh, you know the reason why I be so much, why I be so much. We need no water in the flowers. We need.
So it is currently the 28th of December 2023 on a very wet and gloomy day here in the United Kingdom. I've literally spent all day laying in bed on my laptop applying for something, and well, let me just show you. So as you can see here, dear Lewis, we have granted you a working holiday subclass 417 visa on the 28th of December. So I'm going to Australia, baby. For a little bit of context, my original plan was to do a working holiday visa in Australia in November of 2024. However, when I was doing research on the working holiday visa, a lady reached out to me on a job website here in the UK and was talking about going to work in Australia on a 4-year sponsored visa. Now, I thought at the time when I was doing research, it was really coincidental how she reached out. So I said, you know what, look, we'll have a go and we'll see what it's all about. And then I heard nothing for 2 months. And I was like, oh, damn, you know, that would have been a really great opportunity. 2 months later, I came across a video on YouTube on reasons why you should move to Australia.
G'day, mate. Then we can cut to the scene, finger in the arse, boom. I suppose living and moving to Australia is a bit like having a finger in the arse. You might be curious your whole life, wondering, I wonder what it's like. But until you give it a go, you're never really gonna know.
I watched it, and then 2 hours later, the same lady reached out again and was like, I've got an employer in Melbourne, Australia that wants to speak to you. So over the last 3 months, I've been doing interviews back and forth with Australia, sometimes even 4 o'clock in the morning. We were originally going to do the 4-year sponsored visa, but to get things kick-started really quickly, we're going down the route of doing the working holiday visa. Then once I'm out there for a month, then they will apply for the 4-year sponsored visa on my behalf. So, as you've just seen, it's been granted on the 28th of December, being today. And I'm looking at potentially flying out late March or very, very early April. I realised that there will potentially be people that don't know me and also want to follow along. So for a little bit of context, hi, I'm Lewis. I am originally from Northampton in the United Kingdom, but now live in Leicester. I have spent the last 4 years training to become a fully qualified Jaguar Land Rover vehicle technician, and in May of this year I got granted my qualification after 4 very long years. It was supposed to be 3 but 4 because of COVID. Finally got my qualification now, and just looking at what the next step for me is really. Right, I'm back with another vlog entry. It is the 7th of January 2024 now. I've just booked my flight. So at this point it's pretty official because I've spent nearly £1,000 on flights and visas together. So I'm departing on Tuesday the 26th of March, and I'll be landing in Melbourne in the morning on Thursday the 28th. Probably screwed myself over because it's bank holiday, Easter bank holiday weekend on the Friday to Monday. So everything's probably going to be closed. But yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely becoming a reality now. The blueprint of life is typically to go to school, get a degree, find a job, find a partner, settle down, buy a house, all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. You know, it's a good blueprint to follow. It's worked for many, many generations. But for me and my friend, going back to the age of 14, we've always talked about sort of doing something different. And I think this is it. And, you know, I could go out there, it might not be everything it's chalked up to be, and I come back, I can live with family. I can probably get my old job back. So the absolute worst case scenario is that I just come home and continue doing what I'm doing now. Whereas the alternative is to fly out to the other side of the world, live 15 minutes away from a beach, live 3 hours away from a ski resort, better my career, become a more qualified technician, and just take my career to the next level. So it's a no-brainer, really. It's a win-win no matter what happens. This is it, the day we move to the other side of the world. Let's do this.
Without a woman who cares. Said one more time.
We've been here since Sunday died. Eyes closed, I never prayed for the heights. Tough past, but nothing, we never made it through. To that young me, yeah, I'm still with you. So keep running, don't stop, yo, keep running. I've been nothing, been something, filled somebody's soul, and I keep running. Stay frontin', the pain is numbing. The water here is pure, I swear I can hear you calling.
And she's new to the city, running from a couple milli. Got a voice like Whitney Houston, and she don't wanna tell me where she came from.
So this is where the 1 year in Australia video derails a little bit, because I never actually filmed any content like this throughout my time in Australia. I only ever really filmed like portrait content for social media. So it's kind of going to be a bit of a like piece together. So I've got a list of everything that I've done, and what I'll do is I'll probably put some content over here, sort of showcasing what I'm talking about. But before I do that, I kind of wanted to go back a little bit. In the montage of me actually on the day I moved to Australia, you probably saw a little clip of me crying in an airport. Now, from the moment I left my friends and family at the security at Heathrow Airport, all the way to Singapore, and from Singapore all the way to Australia, I was pretty much crying. Like, I was a fucking mess. Moving to Australia is probably, especially on your own, it probably one of the most brutal things that you can possibly do. But like when I was in the airport, the only thing I wanted was to see a familiar face, and I actually think I have a clip of me in the airport saying that exact same thing. So I've landed in Singapore, still an absolute mess, as you can see. 13 hours later. Yeah, it's just such a bizarre feeling. You're in an airport surrounded by thousands of people, and you're just looking for a familiar face, but you know it's never coming. This is by far the most brutal shit I've ever done in my entire life. And yeah, like, you just knowing that you're going to the other side of the world, away from anything and everyone that you know. Like I said, all you want is to see a familiar face, but it just never comes. And the 2, 3, 4 weeks that I was here in Australia, like, I was doing some incredible things. Like, I was walking the Melbourne F1 track, visiting the botanical gardens. I moved in with some incredible people into a house, and I went camping with 10 lads that I'd met like 3 weeks prior. And it was, I was doing all of these incredible things, but just deep down, I was just so lost, because I just, moved so far away from anything and everyone I knew. So it was incredibly difficult for the first 2-3 months, I'd say. Like, I was so close to calling it quits for at least 3 or 4 months. But it didn't help that I went from a UK winter straight into an Australia winter, because doing nearly 6 months of winter is also pretty brutal. But once I sort of came out the other side, and I had like a solid group of friends, and I was doing all of these activities that I'm about to talk about, and the nice weather came around, it just completely transformed my outlook on Australia. So for the first 3 or 4 months, like, wanting to go home constantly, to now here a year on, I
couldn't think of possibly returning to the UK full time. Like, I want to live here for the rest of my life if possible. It's just mind-blowing how much can change in a year. And again, like what I'm about to talk about, all of the things that I've done this year, it was just beyond my wildest dreams. So although it started off with me crying for nearly 24 hours straight from the day I left, to be sitting here now 1 year on in Albert Park where it all started, it's incredible. And I'm incredibly grateful for myself and the position that I've put myself in. Like, doing something like this it takes a massive gamble, just throwing yourself into the unknown. But I truly believe that sometimes if you just throw yourself out of your comfort zone, a lot of the time life will reward you, and I definitely think it rewarded me in this instance. So yeah, I'm going to shut up for this particular clip anyway. What you're about to see is probably about 15 minutes of me ranting about all the things that I've done, but hopefully you enjoy it. And yeah, so I've had to put a list together of all the things that I've done in Australia because it's pretty comprehensive. So what I might do is just kind of list them off, and I'll put some content here, because again, when I got to Australia, I never really filmed any content like this. I just kind of filmed like portraits type stuff that was for Instagram stories and just vertical content. So what I'll do, I'll go through the list and I'll put some content here for you. So first thing I did was walk the Melbourne F1 track, as you've probably already seen, and then very shortly after I walked over to the Botanical Gardens and I filmed a little video there, which is also on my Instagram as an Instagram reel. And then after that I moved to Mitcham. So I was actually staying in a hostel for a little while when I first got to Australia, and then I hated it. So after about 3 weeks, or maybe even 2 weeks, I left and I moved in with my current housemates, who are incredible. Very quickly after, we went on a camping trip. There was like 10 lads when we went on this camping trip, and I made a video that is on a channel called All the Gear No Idea. I might actually upload that camping trip on my channel as well, because I'm so incredibly proud of how that video turned out. It was so good, and the experience of camping in Australia with 10 lads I barely met 3 weeks after I moved was just incredible. So I'm probably going to put that on my channel because I am really proud of that video. After that, I watched 2 AFL games. Well, some of this isn't actually in order, but I have been to 2 AFL games. Now, if you're not familiar with AFL is Australian Football League. So it's a bit of a combination between like UK football or soccer and rugby. It's actually, once you understand the game, it is actually really, really cool. So watched 2 AFL games. I went and watched an Australian basketball match, which I believe was Australia versus China. That was really good. Another thing that I've gotten into since I've got to Australia is the NBA. NBA is pretty much non-existent in the UK, whereas obviously in Australia they're quite similar to America. So the basketball is pretty big out here. So I've been watching a lot of NBA on the TV, but also we went and watched one in real life, which was quite cool. Again, after the camping trip, I put together a video of us going camping, and I did a premiere. So we got like all of the people that went on the trip and some of the girls in our group involved as well, and we all sat around and watched it, and it was almost like a premiere for like a video that I'd created, which was quite cool. So that was a really special moment. I went to a solo drum and bass rave, which was cool. Drum and bass isn't big out in Australia. It's pretty massive in the UK. It's kind of like the EDM genre, I suppose, in the UK, but out in Australia it's pretty much non-existent. The crowd were questionable, to say the least. I definitely felt like a bit of an outsider there, but I had fun nevertheless. I have watched the sunset over Mount Dandenong, which was another really cool experience. It's basically a massive fucking mountain that you can drive most of the way up and then walk the last little bit, and you can check out the views of the city and the surrounding areas, which was really cool. Another thing you probably would have seen quite a lot if you follow me on Instagram is my Phillip Island trip, where I fed kangaroos, saw wallabies, koala bears. I'm not allowed to say koala bears apparently, it's just koalas. But that was another really cool experience. So I got to feed wallabies and kangaroos as well, and there was also an emu that was incredibly aggressive, so I wouldn't recommend feeding emus. After Phillip Island, we went on another camping trip to the Grampians, which was another incredible camping trip. Really enjoyed that one. I have actually started putting together that video. We went probably like 7 months ago now, and I've still not got the video together. So I need to pull my finger out on that one. I'd probably say about 50% of it is edited, so at some point that will come out. We also, as part of that camping trip, we did some four-wheel driving, but then I actually went on a separate four-wheel driving trip up a mountain where the whole thing was covered in snow. It was so bizarre to see snow in Melbourne. But again, a really, really cool experience. And the car that I was in, I was with a lad from work, and he nearly sent us straight off the side of a cliff. I'll put a photo here. What that photo doesn't show is that where that car is slanted off is pretty much a massive drop. So that was pretty terrifying. But we survived, and we lived to tell the tale. So another really cool part about Melbourne is the Melbourne laneways. It's basically in the middle of the city. There's some sort of little side streets, and I think you're allowed to graffiti there, or maybe certain people with permission are allowed to graffiti there. And it's just like these really cool streets, windy streets filled with graffiti art, and it's definitely something you should do if you come to Melbourne. I've been to numerous birthday parties. I've got on here Josh's birthday party, Tom's birthday party. I think there was one more somewhere in there, but been to loads of social events like that. We've done barbecues and fire pits in our garden. We've had housemate movie nights. I've tried pottery. That was really cool, although extremely difficult. I feel like pottery is a hobby that would be so cool if you got good at it, but it just takes so long to get good at it, and also is incredibly expensive. I also joined a mixed netball team, which I never ever thought I would do, is play a sport in Australia, because I never really did it in the UK. I did when I was young. I was a goalkeeper for 12 years, but coming to Australia, I never thought I'd take up a sport, especially not a mixed netball team. But we actually had such good fun. It was one of them ones where it'd come to Thursdays and you had netball, and you're like, oh, really can't be bothered. But as soon as you got there and you played the game, and we won a fair amount. I think we ended up coming third in the whole league, and we lost like the first 3 games, and we got smashed in the first 3 games. So we were kind of expecting a season of just being beaten, but we ended up turning it around, and we ended up finishing third in the whole league, which was pretty cool. I also went to a David Attenborough experience, which was like this indoor projection. There was loads of beanbags that you could sort of sit on, and they were projecting a David Attenborough documentary all over the auditorium type thing. That was another interesting experience. I went and saw Stephen Bartlett at Speaking Tour. Stephen Bartlett is one of my idols in the sort of business and life coach space, and he actually did a speaking tour in Melbourne that I went and watched, which was really cool, but also it was like 4 hours long, and I didn't know it was going to be 4 hours long. So it got to like midnight, I think, and he was still talking, and I was like, I need to go home. I've still got an hour on the train to get home. So I ended up walking out like sort of 3/4 of the way through, and then I got back to Mitcham Station, which is the train station where I live, and my electric bike that I just spent $1,000 on got stolen. And I'd only owned it for 3 days, so that was pretty shit, can't lie. AFL Grand Final Day, again, that's something else that's quite weird in Australia, is that you get a public holiday, like a day off, for the Football League final. I mean, I'm not complaining, because we all had a gathering again, got together, and we all watched it together. So that was another cool one. I've been to so many raves, not drum and bass raves, mainly techno raves out in Australia. The one I've got here is X Coast at Pika. That was so cool. Again, I'll insert a clip of where he turned like a rave, like a techno rave, into like a rock rave. It was fucking so cool. I've also rode a mechanical bull at a bar. That was interesting, to say the least, when you've got like 100 people watching you try and ride a mechanical bull. I got a little bit cocky and went one-handed, but I ended up falling off quite quickly. We had Oktoberfest again. We got the whole gang together and we went and drank loads of beers in the sun with loads of palm trees around us. I got dragged on some, I don't know if they're called like roller coaster rides, but like funfair rides that sort of swing you around in the air. That was terrifying. Don't recommend. But that was another wicked day out. There was live music, beers. What more could you want? And then I went to another rave with my housemate Tom, and he is one of my favourite artists called Apashe. Now, Apashe does like electronic trap type music, but on this particular tour he brought a brass band with him, so there was like loads of trumpets and trombones, and it was just incredible. Like, a rave with a live brass orchestra is just something to behold. And he's actually done a couple of shows with the Philharmonica Orchestra with like violins and cellos and harps and all kinds of stuff, and it looks ridiculous. I wish I was there to see that, but I'll settle for this rave. Boiler Room, another rave that I went to. God, there's quite a lot. And then I've got Dom Dollar on here, Glass Animals, so a lot of music concerts and raves. I've been to Sydney with work. They put me up in a 5-star hotel, and I spent 3 days at the Jaguar Land Rover Training Academy. There was like massive Nespresso coffee machines. It was so the whole trip was so bougie, all expenses paid. Trip to Sydney, so I can't complain. My first Christmas I spent with my housemates Tom and Izzy at Izzy's parents' house, and the hospitality and kindness that they showed me on Christmas Day was, I'll never forget my first Christmas in Australia, because they spoilt me like I was one of their own. I woke up and there was like a goodie bag from Santa that had so many of my favourite things from the UK, Marmite, Yorkies, double deckers, like all kinds of stuff. And I truly felt spoiled, and the food was incredible, the company was incredible. So Christmas was definitely a special one. Then New Year's Day I went to another rave, or a day festival called Let Them Eat Cake, which was really cool. Again, I went with two of my housemates, Mason and Abby, and we just raved it up in the sun all day. The Australian Open, shortly after, in the new year, in January, the Australian Open was incredible. I only went for 1 day, but I'm really sad that I didn't go for more. I went to 1 day of the Australian Open, and then shortly after I went to Perth. I didn't actually enjoy Perth that much. I almost wish that I hadn't have gone to Perth and I just did like 4 or 5 days at the Australian Open, because that would have been wicked. And then in 2 weeks' time I've got Melbourne F1, so I never in a million years did I think that I would do this many things in Australia. I mean, obviously I came here to live a different lifestyle, and I've not even gone out every weekend. Most weekends I actually just stay inside and sort of recover from the previous week. So this isn't even me like trying to sort of get out and do all of these things. It just kind of, the opportunities came my way. So not only have I done that massive list of things, but I've also saved the most money that I've ever saved in my life. So it's just a different way of life out here. There's, especially Melbourne, I don't think I would have had as good of a time if I went to another city, because Melbourne's just got it all. Like I said, the Australian Open comes to Melbourne, the Formula One comes to Melbourne, you know, Boiler Room and stuff like that. Like all of the major cultural events come to Melbourne because it's like the culture capital of Australia. And again, because I've got a good job out here, I've been able to save a lot of money. So while saving a lot of money, I've also been able to do the most things I've ever done in my life. So it's been an incredible year, and I am actually extending for the 4-year sponsorship visa, which again you would have seen earlier in the video me talk about. So yeah, here's to 4 more years, potentially in Australia. Although I have actually been eyeing up Japan a little bit. I've been learning Japanese, so you might see me going over to Japan at some point. I really can't sit still. It's a bit of a problem. But anyway, I will leave you there, and I will leave you with a little bit of a montage of what 1 year in Australia looks like in about 30 seconds. So enjoy, and I'll see you in some future videos, I guess.